Happy Thanksgiving week. Here we go. In case I don't get a chance to talk to you again. Really pleased with this, with the game in Philadelphia. Really pleased that we took care of business, got a win. It was a really good win to get. A lot of stuff that happened in the game that we really like. A lot of stuff we got to fix and clean up and hopefully get better. What jumps out is just traveling again, taking care of business, everybody playing hard and playing tough and being in it all the way throughout and finding a way to get a good win. The other thing that's really obvious is the defense has really played well again. You know, we look at like the last 2 weeks, we've given up a couple touchdowns only and 8 sacks and 8 turnovers and all that. That's just great numbers, and we love that kind of stuff happening. We've been waiting, kind of waiting on to see if it would show, and the aggressiveness and the attack at the line of scrimmage is really taking an uptick, and we're getting the kind of activity that bothers the quarterbacks and forces the quarterbacks into mistakes and errors, and that's why the ball's been coming our way. As always, that's always the case, and so we're going to keep going, keep working it, and I like that. We've been able to continue to move the alignments around, play guys in different spots, and JD forced us to do a couple other things, and Griff coming up and is helping us a little bit, and we saw Ziggy play better, and Quentin Jefferson his play in the last 2 weeks was a factor. He's a good football player that we missed for the couple weeks he was gone. So it's also leading us to seeing more activity on the back end. We have 14 pass defense last couple of weeks, and those are real good numbers too. So you can see how it feeds off of one another. When you take that and you run the ball for a bunch of yards, and we know we respected the heck out of, again, the last 2 weeks of defensives that we played, we're getting the production that gives us a chance to run the football and play good D. That combination has always been successful, and so we're happy to see that happen, and we'd like to keep riding it all throughout the end of the season.
When you went back and watched Ziggy, what did you see out of his game?
He was aggressive. He's always played with really good effort. He was more aggressive and physical. He was able to break through some protection. Was on the quarterback. We lose out the stats on the play, the great sack he had, and forced fumble too. He just was more effective in all ways, but he was more stout, and it just looks like he was just at a better level of the physical side of things, and that's great to see.
Rasheem was a guy that maybe didn't contribute as much as a rookie. The way he's come on, and the sack yesterday, and the other tackle for loss. What have you seen out of him coming up?
Yeah, well, he's involved a lot now, so he's really he's part of the rotations, the starting rotations, and he's just contributing. He's a good ball player. He's still a young kid, and he's still learning, and is going to improve. I would love to see him keep taking the steps like we saw Quentin Jefferson kind of get better. This is like, I think, probably year 4 for Quentin. That we'll just see him continue to get better and be more effective. He's got a lot of talent. He's got quickness, and he's got reach, and he plays hard, and he's playing smart football. So it's just a matter of just putting it together. So I think he can keep growing.
How's Jaron Reed doing?
He's got a sprained ankle, and we have to wait and see how it's going to hold him back, or if it's going to be able to make it through. We don't know that yet. But it's the same ankle that was sprained before. He just redid it, and so we'll just really go a couple days. Give us a couple days, and then we'll check him out probably about Friday, see how he's doing.
Does Connie have a sports hernia injury, or what's this?
It's related to that, the sports hernia stuff, and that's what he was treated for, and so we'll see how the treatment took hold. He feels pretty good today, and he's. I haven't talked to him directly, but he's passed along. He's looking forward to playing this week. No.
What was the thinking behind having him get the treatment this past week as opposed to on the bye week?
It didn't show up as clearly. It wasn't defined. Often that injury is hard to tell if it's a hip flexor, is it a groin, and it's always been that case. And you kind of, after you eliminate all of the different things it could be, it generally comes back to the sports hernia thing. And we've been watching this for years with different guys, and so it just took a while to realize that he's going to need to at least get looked at by the specialist, and we did that, and so they tried to treat it in hopes that they can quiet it down.
Does Chris putting the ball on the ground directly open up more opportunities for Rashad to get carried?
That's not the case in my mind, but the opportunity to play and to contribute is always there. In this spot in particular. what Chris did yesterday, our offensive lineman knocked the ball out of his hands on the first one, and the other one, it was a communication problem. So it's a little different than the guy just dropping the ball over the place. So Rashad did great. I'm really fired up for that. And we need him. His explosiveness continues to show up. He has had a real home run type of style of play, and we got to give him chances to bring that to us.
Is it a little bit concerning with Rashad that he kind of admitted yesterday that he was told to get his act together this last offseason, hired a nutritionist, is now trying to trim weight mid-season, or is that just a case of a young guy who's trying to kind of figure out his way in the league?
Just try to give you some bearing here. When he came into our meeting room at the combine, he was 213, I think he was, and I said, well, how come you're 213? Why is your weight so low? Because we'd had him higher than that. I don't know, just working out, and so he wasn't really paying a lot of attention to it. He was just playing football and having fun and staying in great shape and getting ready for the combine. That's where his weight came down to, and then he's been as close to 240 at times, So he's a guy he's a thick guy. He's not a normal running back's body type. He's got a unique body type about him, and what he has found in the offseason that he had to kind of recapture, an intent and a focus on it, and so he did, and he's come back in great shape, and he had a couple things that kept him out of there, but he's ready to go, and he's ready to finish big, and we're thrilled about it.
You said his last 3 weeks have maybe been his best 3 weeks. What in particular have you seen day to day?
It just seemed like he turned a corner on he did it in a couple different areas. His intent to prove that he's worthy and get his playing time, just the competitiveness of it. He knew Chris was playing really well and doing good stuff, and he knew he needed to put his best foot forward, and he just seemed to take a good step, and it carried over from his eating, his nutrition, and a lot of things, his rest and all that stuff, and it just showed up. He just had great weeks of practice, and so it wasn't a surprise that he looked like that. That's what he's been looking like, so we're just a little, wish we would have shown him a little earlier, but that's my fault for not getting him in there.
It seems that Quantres, has had a big impact on Bradley, just his confidence and all that, but I guess how has he really impacted the, cohesiveness of the entire defense, just having him as that kind of
particularly, I talked to Bradley about that. I don't know, we kind of assume that it's helping Brad. I don't know if Bradley's saying that or not, but his just presence. He's really even keeled. He's pretty quiet, but he's really in tune. He's really intense about his work and his practice habits. I show his highlights of him flying across the field, just like I used to show Earl's stuff, and because he's that's how he works. Those just setting kind of. I think he's raised the bar a little bit for the position in terms of experience and awareness and understanding, as well as communication and kind of an intensity, and that comes from being a really good pro. He's been out there enough, and he's learned the game. I continue to tell you that he's been coached really well. He's got really good background, and so any kind of technique principle and concept principle that I've thrown at him, he gets it and he understands it and he can make it work for you and all that. The first week he played kind of conservative just to get out there and make sure that he didn't, wasn't have any bonehead plays or whatever. Got through it, and then we said, okay, let's crank it down. Let's bring it more towards the action, and he did exactly that. And he's really a great guy to work with, and I think the players feel the same thing. They can sense, they can tell, and they're in the meeting rooms with him, and they see him make the decisions and the choices and stuff, and it gives other people confidence. I think he helps guys. So I keep saying this, what good players do, they help other guys play well, and he's one of those guys.
About as big a mid-season acquisition as you can remember this team having in terms of what it's done to not only.
Well, let's give him some time. He's only been there 2 weeks. Played 2 weeks. Give him a chance to really impact the end of the season. We'll see. We're gonna look back at that one, I think. But we're thrilled to have him. I love being able to communicate with him on the level that we're communicating on.
Lord.
It's not as bad as we thought, but he's got a quad strain, and we're going to have to wait and see what that means. But he's going to have to make some progress to make it back this week because it's legit, but it's just not as severe as we thought it was.
You've now had games where the offense has really been humming. You've had 2 games now where the defense has looked really sharp. So that give you kind of encouragement that things are real close to clicking for you guys across the board.
Yeah, You know, I mean, you like to say, okay, everybody's hitting on all cylinders and we're flying high, but there's teams out there that are trying to keep that from happening too, you know. So it's hard to get that game. But what's important is that we're fitting off of one another and playing off each other, and the defense is really taking a step forward, which we need them to keep going, and we need the offense to keep going and get back to the best of them they have to offer as well, and to have a chance to finish like we want to. We have a terrific schedule coming up, challenges and all that, and we're going to have to play really well. I do think, though, it leads us to our best football still ahead of us, you know, and that's, you know, I've been pretty patient with the way I've talked to you guys about it. You know, that, you know, we're making progress here. It's coming along. We'll see how it goes. We're, you know, still making adjustments. There's still things happening, you know, and on our club, and I don't have any problem with that. We got to keep winning while we're figuring it out, though.
Speaking of that, I would imagine throughout the years, different teams respond differently to what the coaches are trying to impart on them and adjustments made. What's unique about this team in terms of adjusting and reacting and buying into what you guys are trying to tell them?
There's just this is the team that is. I think we'll look back when there was this deep-seated, long-standing care for each other that comes about in terms of harmony. They really are together, and so they're with us on everything, and they're going along with it. They're pliable in a sense, and they're growing into the belief that they can win football games, you know, and that's a really powerful, you know, knowing when you get there, and it's obvious with all of the close games that we played, and that ability to do that comes from the belief that they have for themselves, what they are capable of doing, and what the guys around them are capable of doing, and that's very strong in here. You know, it's like the force is strong in this room. You know, it's pretty cool. You know.
Is that something you felt before you started winning those close games?
Oh yeah, well, I would think. I don't know. I mean, you have to go back and check it out. But I've been telling you that this is a very, very tight group, and they're very energetic about all of the challenges. They're always upbeat. They're very positive. There just has been no hitches along the way. You know, they've just been going along, and then we've adjusted well to the issues that we've had and the things that have happened, and we'll continue to be able to handle. I think we can handle anything, and we're doing it through communication and guys working together and the caring and all the really cool stuff that can happen on a team.
Hansa and Clowney get healthy and playing together. What does that open up for the defense when you've got both of those guys? Yeah, top officials.
Well, it's what we kind of hoped for, you know, when going into the season. That you can see the results of what the pass rush, you know, the factor. It just makes it really hard on the offense to function at a high rate, and the quarterback's numbers are, you know, in the 60s and 70s in ratings and stuff like that, and that's playing the kind of football that allows the ball to be available to you. And you know, that's 8 turnovers, you know, in the last 2 weeks, and so those guys will just contribute more to it. But they got a little competition. Griff made a little move on him. You know, he looks like he's got some stuff that we can incorporate and keep developing, that he can be a factor as well. So that's, you know, you can see the when those two guys are going, we'll be at our best. With Griff's addition too, with the things that he could bring, the speed that he interjects is really valuable to us. You know, and I think it's obvious when you see the film or when you watch the games. You know, that he's a factor, and they got to be careful. He's going to get them, and so competition is a beautiful thing.
How did he look in that game yesterday?
He had some real flashy plays. He you know, the big forced fumble that we'd kick around and all the stuff we did with that one. You know, he initiated that play by being there, and he kind of finished it too. But there was a moment in there when he was kind of leaving the action. You know, he kind of took a left turn, you know, and for celebrating and all that. But he entered back into it. So, but he's trying to find his way a little bit. We're trying to help him out and figure out how he can incorporate the style that he has. He can't rush in traditional fashion, and you know, he's 50 pounds lighter than other guys, you know, that do the same thing. So he's got to. We're working on it, and it's pretty exciting.
I think you said he's at 213, roughly?
Something like that, yeah.
I can't imagine you've had many edge rushers.
Not since maybe NC State or something like that, you know.
Is that maybe part of your, I don't know if reluctance is the right word, but, you know, first 2 months of this season to not put him in that role, just in terms of.
Yeah, it was hard to. It was kind of hard to imagine that it would work, you know. And we used him as a blitzer. We moved him outside to get him to blitz more and to do that. So he did show some stuff, and that's kind of where we saw the spark. And we've been messing with him for a few weeks now. And it just seems like it's coming around a little closer to the actions that's happening now. And I'm excited about it.
Can you look at the collective kind of showing of the group up front defensively? Is it the individual performances starting to shine through in a different way? Is it some cohesion of the entire unit together? What do you think is kind of?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's Jay Reed is feeling better. He's finally in the flow of things, although he's dinged right now. But that's part of it. Quentin Jefferson coming back to us. I think he was effective early. You put him together with Jaron. You know, that's working out. Clowney's emergence and just kind of getting comfortable here. And it's taken him a while for it to show up pass rush wise, but and I think it's all of these things together. And I don't think it's any one thing. That's too easy, you know.
It might get overlooked, Pete, but Michael Dixon's adjustment to the wind and how he was talking to me about how he had to change his drops and change the holding on the ball.
Yeah.
How instrumental was that field position?
It's a huge part of this game now. You know, to back him up a couple times, and he had 5 kicks inside the 20 and 2 of them inside the 5. You know, and one of those kicks, you know, he had to get up out of his shoes to get the snap that was a high snap that challenged him the first time this year, and he came back down and put the ball in the 2, you know, and so he had a great game for us. It's the situational play, you know, we had a couple things. I'll give you a couple shots here. One would be the kicks for sure for field position were huge in this game. The defense going out there after a turnover on the 33-yard line or whatever the heck it was and stopping them in 4 plays and getting the ball back. Huge situational sudden change play for the defense was enormous, you know, and we needed it to happen. And so I think those kinds of things are subtle in the game, but they're really enormous when you look and you come back to it. Backing the team up and putting them inside the 5-yard line is such a valuable thing. We have lived for years doing that. Run the football, play defense, and play good field position, and you're hard to beat when you play like that. And that's you know, we'd love to see that formula. Michael had a great contribution to that.
What do you attribute some of the penalties to? A couple of big spots where, like, right after the punt, offsides, and then after 2 of the takeaways.
We had some communication issues, you know, I thought that kind of popped up. I don't know if it was because of the noise so much, but we were a little late getting out of the huddle at times, and we rushed a little bit, you know, at the end for one reason or another, and they did some nice things to get us to move. These guys are a sophisticated team, and we got caught on a couple things, and it added up to, you know, I think we had 6 line of scrimmage penalties in the game, which were just when we just gave them those penalties, you know, a couple on defense and a couple 4 on offense or something like that. So we have to be sharper. We have to rise above. We have to help ourselves out by getting out of the huddle a little bit sooner and making sure that we're there, and you know, and we have time. We don't get antsy by the clock and stuff like that. We had to delay the game penalty in there, so it wasn't as clean as we would like to think it would be at this late in the season. So, but there were some factors in there too.
You mentioned that the Carson exchange was a miscommunication, but there was a play with Penny when Malcolm Jenkins got a sack when he comes around the backside of Russell and doesn't block him and try. Was that a similar sort of situation?
Yeah, what happened there is Malcolm wasn't blitzing on the play. He was covering the tight end that blocked, and he waited, and so there was a hesitation and a delay in there. And so Penny looked at him, and he was on the other side of the ball, and then his eyes came away from him, and he didn't see him. You know, he missed it. And you know, that's just experience. And it's Malcolm Jenkins, and he makes things happen, and you got to keep your eye on him. And he didn't have anything else he had to do at the time. He could have easily seen that, you know, but he didn't, and so he learned, and hopefully that won't happen again. But that was kind of a first-time shot for him. It was a pretty sophisticated situation that happened. Had to figure it out. He didn't quite see it, you know. So we missed it.
Yeah, 12 tackles. A lot of them seemed like they were in space. Maybe tough. What's he brought this year after what was a pretty tough season last year for him?
Well, he's doing kind of typical KJ stuff. He's playing really smart. He's helping us in a lot of different areas. He does a lot of different things. He picks up a lot of coverage matchups and with tight ends and stuff. And he's done a nice job with that. Pressures a little bit. Just basically just playing KJ football, was playing smart and being in the right spots and helping other guys know their calls and stuff like that. And he's just a good player that helps other guys play better. I think I should note too. I don't think I said this yesterday, but for Kendricks to go back to Philadelphia, a place where he started and all that, it's a big deal to him. And he wanted to play well. He had 11 tackles in the game. He had 11 really good tackles and played great football for us. That was a nice come through for him. And he handled it well. And I was watching him all during the week and talked to him a few different times about it. I didn't want him to get overhyped about it and trying to do too much, And he was handling it and went into the game and played really well and did a really nice job. It was a nice come through for him.
With Ziggy, how's he doing in terms of getting his weight and his strength back?
He's like I said to you, I think he's the strongest, heaviest he's been since he's been here, and so that just came about from the emphasis of the last 3 weeks, and I'm glad to see it. And it's going to keep going. We're not going to back off on that. Just try to keep helping him throughout the. We got a long time here, and there's another month here of the regular season, and hopefully more, and he can keep improving.
In the mix-up between Carson and Wilson, Russell said that it was his fault that he didn't communicate. Is that what happened?
He could be more demonstrative. Yeah, he alerted the call, and but he's going to take responsibility if anybody doesn't get it. And so that's what he did.
What did you make of the overall pass protection and 6 sacks?
Well, we talked about the Penny one that could have been avoided. There's 2 times when Russ is running and he could have thrown the ball away, and we make no yards. We get across the line of scrimmage, but that goes as a sack if you don't make more than 1. So there's 3 of them in there. We got we missed another. We got whiffed on a little communication thing, and then we got knocked back a little bit too. They're pretty good, and so there's a little bit of everything in there. So there's lots of ways to clean stuff up. We'd like to really get rid of the communication ones and things that we could have easily handled, like Russ to get rid of the football a couple times, just to avoid the sack is all. The ball would have been in the same place anyway, but that's just the pride in getting rid of them.
Pete, even at 9-2, it seems like you guys haven't quite put together a complete game in terms of offense and defense playing kind of lights out at the same time. The last 2 games, it's kind of been more the defense.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, I was going to say, does that kind of make you really excited about kind of?
Yeah, we're just laying low, just doing the best we can, just trying to get along. I think Joe Namath once said just trying to get along,
It's kind of wild how good this division's been. There's always been one team that's just been ridiculous, and now.
Remember when we were playing in the playoffs and we were the worst playoff representative in the history of football, and then we beat the world champs or something like that? There was a time when it wasn't like that. It's kind of, we've been here long enough, so we've seen some, an undulating pattern here. But it has been strong a lot, and great. I think it helps us. I really think it helps us. We have to play up every week, week in, week out. You're just forced to maintain a high level to hold your head above the water, and that's kind of where it is again. Coming all down to it too. The way we schedule now, so we play these games at the end. It's kind of fun, and so we got everybody here in the closing stretch here.
Do you like how the playoff format is set up to where it just puts such an emphasis on winning your division to where? You potentially, right, there's a lot of football they play, but you're either playing for first round bye or you're going on the road week 1 of the walk. It's a pretty big spectrum of the 2 outcomes.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I don't have that much opinion. I don't care which way it is. We just keep playing them. But I do like the scheduling thing. I think it's kind of fun to see the teams come together at the end of the year to decide the division, and I don't know how it's that much different than it's been, but just the scheduling part of it is unique, and they're doing that for excitement and all that. And I think they've made a good choice.
Was Jacob Hollister all right after the early play?
He's a little sore. Yeah, he's sore. His foot's sore after the hit, and that was a nasty play right there for him. Jake's been a stud now. He's taken a lot of hits. He's delivered a lot of them. Man, he's playing good ball. He's just doing such a good job. I'm so fired up for Jake. Talking about a great pickup. There's a great pickup for us. He's coming through in a big way and still contributing in a big way on special teams too. And I'm really excited about that.
What's the plan for Luke Wilson this week?
Well, Luke's not counting himself out of this one now. He thinks he's got a whole nother week. He's going to make it. We won't challenge him until late in the week to see where it is. But in pregame yesterday, he looked pretty darn quick. He was running around and showing off, and that he was talking about he wanted to play yesterday. So he's a rare guy now. Over the years, he's overcome stuff he should never have played with, and that's why the Wolverine nickname kind of flows around there.
Did he give himself that nickname, or
probably did? Yeah, I think he might have self-proclaimed.
Any new injuries out of the game?
No. I don't know.
Tyler Lockett come out okay?
Who?
Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, Locke's better today. Yeah, he feels better today. I didn't see him at top speed, as much as we would like to think that he was, but I didn't see him able to get there. He didn't have a very productive week. He had to really wait out the week, and it was a screwed up weekend and all that. So the long week this time, he's going to be flying.
What do you think of David and Travis in the punt and the kickoff duties?
Really happy with that's his not as challenging. There's worse weather situations than that, but that was a really challenging situation with the way the wind was swirling down there. David handled those punts beautifully. He made it look easy. Totally comfortable. People around him, the decision making, all of that. We've seen we trust David from where we've seen him before, but that was his best performance to secure it. Where it just gives us more depth. And I kidded Nalak today, about the competition's on, for who's going to go next week. The other side of it is we saw Homer. We've been grooming Homer for some time now. We've been really wanting him to take this spot for us and be a kickoff return guy. And he's got one good shot, and he just roared it up in there just like you like to see. I like the fact that he's a running back. He has all the skills and the background, the training to take care of the football and all that, and he really hits it. So he did a 29-yard return, and smoked it up in there really nice. So both those guys made a great first impression, and in their first chance to really start and with the pressure on them.
Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you.